2019 is proving to be one heck of a year for Sega-related retro projects. We have everything from old series coming back that have been long dormant, to remakes that completely reimagine an old favorite. Not all these projects are done by Sega, but they all are intrinsically tied to some way to Sega's past. I have 5 projects slated to be released soon that I want to talk about and share some of my feelings on. The first project is a big one, with Yu Suzuki returning to bring us a new entry in the Shenmue line of games, Shenmue III. This one began life as a Kickstarter campaign that was introduced by Sony at E3 2015. I had absolutely no hope we'd ever see a return of these games, especially from Sega. The Yakuza series was doing well, and Yu Suzuki has been long gone from Sega's employment. And I was right, Sega isn't doing it, with Yu Suzuki leading his own team and Deep Silver publishing it. The Kickstarter campaign was huge, generating millions of dollars instantly and becoming one of the most successful games on that platform. I'll always remember the excitement of that E3 when Yu Suzuki walked out and the crowd erupted into cheers. To see this guy get this welcome was truly heartwarming to an old Sega fan like me. Expectations are understandably high for this game. I mean, Shenmue is a staple of the Sega Dreamcast experience, and is fondly remembered by many that took the journey. Game design has changed a lot in the nearly 2 decades since the series began, however, and I'm really hoping that Yu Suzuki looks to other games that have come along and expanded on Shenmue's groundbreaking formula. I think adhering to the old game design too closely may turn off modern gamers, and they're the ones that will drive the sales of this to where it needs to be. I really hope it works out for the best. One area of controversy has been the PC platform and its distribution method. Seems that it will only be available on the Epic Games Store, leaving Steam supporters out for an entire year of exclusivity. This is a shame, but it will be available in a physical release on the PC if you so desire. Shenmue III comes out November 19th for the PlayStation 4 and PC.
A long time ago, martial arts were bad, but humans are interesting creatures. They practiced in secret, away from prying eyes, and became stronger. One even practiced atop this very boat. Nam-Tren survived the ban and was passed on in this way.
One of my favorite games on the Sega Saturn is the original Panzer Dragoon. It was released early in the life of the platform, and was one of the shining beacons of hope that the Saturn did indeed have loads of potential with 3D graphics. It has one of the best soundtracks of any game I've ever played, and it spawned multiple sequels that continue to do the series proud. There hasn't been a new Panzer game in nearly 2 decades, with the last entry coming to the original Xbox in the form of Panzer Dragoon Orta. So you can imagine my shock and surprise when it was announced that Sega had employed the services of Megapixel Studio and Forever Entertainment to remake the first 2 Panzer Dragoon games. And when I say remake, I mean remake. Now with a brand new graphics engine and a completely reimagined world, Panzer comes screaming into the modern generation of games, and damn does it look good. I've seen many fans of the original express disappointment in the way this looks, citing the desolation and loneliness of the original as a big part of its appeal and experience. I look at it as the desolation is still there. The ruins and evidence of an old civilization is everywhere. This is a world that is trying to come back from being ravaged in the past, and life is trying to find a way. And that's what you are fighting for here. Besides, we have seen the original art across multiple platforms outside of the Saturn, and it's time for Panzer to come forward as a modern series with modern sensibilities. This has been announced tentatively as a winter release for this year or early 2020, and work has already begun on Panzer Dragoon 2. One area of concern is that the developer, Megapixel Studio, is said to be operating on a tiny budget, making the success of this incredibly important to the prospects of future retro Sega IPs. It's also Nintendo Switch exclusive at the moment. A big mistake in my opinion. This should be a game available to every Sega fan across every platform, especially if they are shooting for it to be as successful as possible. There are 150 million plus users on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that are potential customers of this. To not offer them access is a big mistake. One of my most anticipated releases this year is the Sega Genesis Mini. This is Sega's first attempt at a retro console in-house, and they have M2 helping with the development to bring it home. The game lineup is nothing short of spectacular, including games that I never thought we'd see in such a product. It's true that there are still omissions here worth noting, but the vast majority of this stuff is must-play software that define the system. If the US and European versions don't appeal, you may want to take a look at the Japanese and Asian packages of this that are coming out as well. These have a few different games and ship with 6-button controllers. I'm so excited for this I went ahead and ordered every version just to support Sega and this endeavor. I won't be getting a free review unit either. When I cover this, it'll be a unit I paid for and support it with my own money. The only negatives here is that I wish Sega had included 6-button pads and included some way for us to add new games officially. Releases like this would benefit heavily from add-on software packages you could buy later on, which could include third-party titles we aren't getting by default. I understand not developing a full-blown online service for stuff like this because the cost would likely far outweigh the return. But adding games in some other form is key to the future of these devices, I feel. The first company with a sensible solution to this stands to make a lot of money in my opinion. The Sega Genesis Mini releases on September 19th in the US, with the European Mega Drive Mini coming October the 4th. Pre-orders for the Japanese and Asian variants are available at playasia.com.
メガドライブミニ本体収録タイトル紹介第1弾ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグ2ぷよぷよ2シャイニング・フォース神々の一産ヴァンパイア・キラーレッスルボールガンスターヒーローズコミックスゾーンレンタヒーロースペースハリアー2魔導物語1メガドライブとともに時代を歩んだ全ての人に届けたいメガドライブミニ9月19日発売
The Sega Ages line of software for the Nintendo Switch is beginning to wrap up with its initial batch of offerings. With Columns 2 making its way out in Japan, that leaves just a handful of Sega's classic IPs to be released. At the rate games are dropping in Japan, we will likely see the rest of these before the end of the year. There's a few good ones left too, with Thunder Force AC, the arcade version of the classic shoot-'em-up series still to come, as well as Sonic 2, one of the most popular games among Genesis fans. We still have the arcade version of Shinobi coming, which I'm praying includes the Sega Master System edition, as well as G-Lock Air Battle, a flight combat game that takes the Afterburner formula in a new direction. Fantasy Zone is coming, which hopefully includes the System 16 remake of Fantasy Zone 2, which just happens to have been developed by M2 themselves. Herzog Zwei will be the last game we see of the lineup that has been announced so far. Outside of a few other puzzle games I haven't mentioned, that's it. The future of this lineup will likely hinge on the success of the games that remain, so if any of these appeal to you, I highly recommend you support them. My feelings are well known on what I think it will take for this lineup of games to go on to make Sega a decent return. For too long has the Sega Ages line been stuck with the same releases time and time again. It needs to evolve with new games to generate new excitement. Sticking to familiar territory will doom us to closure of this style of release, almost certainly. Sega needs to reinvigorate things with the next batch of releases. The last game I want to go over is the much anticipated return of the Streets of Rage franchise, Streets of Rage 4. It was announced in August 2018 as a joint venture between Guard Crush Games, .mu, and Lizard Cube. This has been a long time coming and I can't tell you how excited I am that it's happening. It takes place 10 years after the events of Streets of Rage 3, likely meaning that it will make heavy use of the outcome of that game's story. New gameplay tidbits include life recovery from successful combo attacks, as well as a new juggle system that allows you to rack up dozens of hits on helpless foes. This juggle system appears to be capable of being exploited in two-player combat even further. Returning is Axel Stone and Blaze Fielding from the original trilogy, though the developers have said that there will be more announced in the future. One area that really hit home and really got me excited was the return of original series composers Yuzo Koshiro and Motohiro Kawashima, who now have a full complement of support from other composers, helping them add the necessary ambiance and atmosphere to make this the game it needs to be. Streets of Rage can't be the game we want unless it's backed by the music that made the franchise so special. One area that many fans have expressed concern over is the new high-res art style that appears overly bright. I agree this style is a radical departure from the darker tones and gritty look of the original games, but I also appreciate the attempt to make things new. With new artists, there will come a new vision of what the universe should look like, and I think as long as they pay homage to some of the characters and locations we know and love, things will be okay. This doesn't have a release date yet, but it's expected to land in the very near future. "2019 definitely has the potential to be truly memorable with these releases still to come. It's been a long time since I've been this excited for anything Sega related that has been tied so powerfully to their past. I think every single thing I went over in this video has the potential to be must-own hardware and software. And let me be frank here, if you claim to be a Sega fan, you need to be there supporting them if you ever hope to see more projects like this get greenlit. Sega is no doubt looking closely at how these will be performing before making any future decisions. Simply bypassing them because you don't like a certain art style or element of their design isn't going to cut it. You need to put your ass in the seat and support this stuff. You don't have to support it happily and quietly, but you do need to be there as a fan of this kind of content. In 2019, you have unprecedented access to developers and publishers of these kinds of releases, and you can make your feelings known, be it good, bad, or in between, of what you want to see in the future. But for there to be a future, you need to be more than just a vocal fan shitting on everything you don't like. Software design is an ever-evolving form of art that will see many different takes and expressions. If you ever hope to reach the stuff you want, you have to support the journey in getting there. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.